Hey guys, welcome back to another stream. Let me actually do something. I want to try something real quick, because when I'm talking, it sounds weird in my ears. I have the OBS playback on, or the feedback on, so I can kind of hear myself. I don't like the way it sounds. So I'm actually going to do something else. And when I was checking out some properties on a different thing from before, it's going to be different, so I want to try this. Let me know how it works. Alright, how's that? No, it doesn't sound much different to me, at least to my ears. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go back to the Yeti. I tried a third one randomly and that did not work out too well. But something else came up. I'm gonna check it out. So I have certain filters on that should be disabled, but I can't really tell if they are or aren't. So I'm not entirely sure. Sorry if I hurt your ears just now with that. I saw that jump up to red, so maybe they are disabled and my microphone's just sensitive. Let me tune it a little bit. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. Yeah, I don't know. I probably just effed everything up though. So we'll see how it goes. One of those things I keep meaning to get around to, but I've got so much stuff already on my plate I can't really spare the time unless I'm like in the middle of thinking about it and able to play with it. I have a knot in my hair and I don't like it. I don't have a brush in here with me though, so that's just gonna have to wait. Alright. So we were all this yellow means like all of these are going to be rearranged to somewhere earlier in the story. When that's going to be, I don't know. But we're just going through first and marking what we want to edit and then we're going to go ahead and actually make those edits on the next go through. And then after that, I'll take all that offline and we'll work on the next story. Let's see, so later on... Oh, that's right, because we left off, they had just slain the dragon. Sylvia, date. That's capitalized, but it's going to change. I decided I kind of like this format, the formatting this like this instead of date. Anyway. Sylvia, date. Later on, let me actually switch things around here. Okay, cool. I'm seeing all my chats. Good, good, good. Check something out, because my dashboard, like my Twitch dashboard is acting up. My YouTube dashboard's fine, but I've also got some issues with the software that I use to change the titles, or the not the titles. Oh yeah, the titles, the stream titles. I didn't change any of the details except for the time ending. Let me double check. What does YouTube say? Yeah, that looks like it's set. So that seems fine. Get rid of that advert. I don't mind it if it was at the bottom, but I don't like it being at the top. Let's see. But yeah, Twitch is odd. It's showing me that I'm online, but it's not letting me know when my next ads are going to be. And that kind of bothers me. Oh, I moved something around and it just auto-updated. Okay, cool. So no worries now. All good? Alright. Oh yeah, and so guys, I do want to go ahead and let you know that we did, I've decided what I want to do in the blank space down here between my avatar and the story. I did play around with the avatar a little bit yesterday to fix some positioning, and the it could probably be better on this, bigger on this set, on the screen now. I think I minimized it accidentally, but either way, I think the white space between my avatar and the story, what I want to do is kind of do a mixture of things. One is going to be easier than the other. One's going to be like a rotating thing where, you know, I say I'm supporting Baby DJ, you can support me at, you can support yada yada yada. Basically a periodic rotating banner of support. If the stream gets sponsored, that'd be nice. And then I put that up too. But also, if we do happen to get more chatters, then those chats will come up in the screen too. But what I really want to do, and this is the more difficult part, is actually create a list of chatters, not just like the chats, but like just the icons, and like fill them out. You see like on the blue snow globe, well, blue thing in the back, I kind of want to do something like that where your face goes in the middle of those little stars. So that was my idea. I may actually still change the background to a Christmas tree and your faces are going to be ornaments, but that's, again, that's very technical, and I don't have, again, just like with the microphone, I don't really have much time to dedicate to that currently, so bits and pieces, bits and pieces. Alright, so let's actually get to the editing though, because we have about an hour and a half now. Oh, and when my brother comes home, I will be pausing this or stepping away for a minute to go talk to him. So there will be a airbag moment. Sometime soonish, actually. Alright, so Sylvia, date. This is later that same day. Later on, with a purple balloon tied around her wrist and a blue and yellow cupcake painted onto her cheek. Actually, no. Yellow's the color for it. Sylvia sat down next to Vanessa at one of the picnic tables and looked around at the family gathering. You guys always have a birthday party out here? We're going to just rephrase this. What? Vanessa nearly dropped her fork full of cake and laughed. No, most of the time it's at someone's house. Maggie's parents decided to do it here today for some reason, though. I don't know why. But, again, necessary or not necessarily can be done when I look at the actual yellow. She shrugged and then shoved the chocolate cake into her mouth before it had a chance to fall off the fork again. My family's out of town, so we don't see them that often. Even for Christmas, Sylvia explained, her eyes watching a father chase his son around. We'll keep that. Maybe once every couple of years. Want to know a secret? Vanessa asked when she was done with her mouthful of cake. What's that? Sylvia turned her gaze toward the other young woman. I don't have very many family members my age. She pointed toward another girl who looked like she was just becoming a teenager. That's the closest cousin to my age, and she's 5 years younger than me. Sylvia wasn't sure why she was being told this. It's not like an age gap between family members is something to keep a secret, and it certainly wouldn't be any sort of secret within her family. So why is Vanessa pretending that this would be a secret? Either Vanessa noted the apparent confusion on Sylvia's face, or she was continuing as if she didn't plan on stopping anyway. I've always felt alone because of that. Realization registered for Sylvia as she understood what Vanessa was trying to convey to her. Although she had plenty of family around, she never felt like she was part of the group. She felt alone. Sylvia was an only child, so she felt alone pretty often, especially when her father was away on a trip, and she and her mother would have differences of opinion. Yeah, we're gonna call that for what it is. It's gonna be a fight. She and her mother fight. Sorry, she said. She felt lame. She wasn't sure what else she could say, but somehow just sorry felt like it wasn't enough. It's fine. Vanessa let out a sigh and looked around at her family members. The party had already peaked, and a lot of groups were beginning to meander their way back to the parking lot and leave. Even though Sylvia counted at least 5 different families leaving, there were still felt like dozens of families still mingling at the party, including Maggie's and Vanessa's families. You don't have any siblings? Sylvia asked, randomly even for her. Me? Siblings? No. Vanessa shook her head. Why? I want to highlight this because earlier Vanessa kept calling Maggie her cousin. It feels like everyone here has at least 2 or 3 children in the family. I mean, I don't know who everyone is, or who is part of which family group, but Sylvia shrugged. It just felt that way to me. Vanessa remained quiet for a few moments as she enjoyed the birthday cake in contemplation. Finally, she remarked, You know, I think mine is the only family with just 1 kid. Sylvia was about to make a comment, but Vanessa continued. And that's fine. I think my dad wanted to focus on his career anyway, and having too many kids probably would have distracted him from that. Your dad's a doctor, right? Sylvia asked, trying to remember what she was told that day when Vanessa ran into her in the hallway. Vanessa nodded. Yeah, he does general practice. I have no idea what that means, Sylvia admitted. Not really, not having paid... I can't read, that's me. I have no idea what that means, Sylvia admitted, not having really paid much attention to the types of doctors there were in the world. All she knew was pediatric, doctor, psychiatrist, and probably a few other specialties for eyes, mouth, and feet. She didn't doubt that there could be more than that, she just had never bothered to pay attention to it. One sec, guys. I was double checking something. Press ahead into for no messages. They came up before I thought. That's fine. Yeah. She didn't doubt that there could be more to it. She had just never bothered to pay much attention to it. With a smirk, Vanessa shook her head and twisted her body to look better at Sylvia. I could explain it, if you want, she offered. No, thank you, Vanessa said earnestly, swinging her legs. That's fine, Vanessa said. I wouldn't be great at explaining it anyway, she admitted. That prompted a bit of laughter from the two of them. What does your dad do? Vanessa asked before finishing off the last of the cake on her plate. Sylvia stiffened a bit. She wasn't sure how to answer this. Did it make sense to tell this girl who she barely knew about her father's predicament? She knew what he did before he was let go. Maybe he could say something, or she could say something like that. Surely he would have a similar job when he gets a new one, right? He does business stuff, she said, again feeling lame. Without saying too much, he tends to do a lot of travel and strike up business deals with company clients, she said, hoping that it would satisfy Vanessa's curiosity. A businessman, huh? Vanessa's curiosity seemed sated. Let's just highlight this for redundancy. Almost. What kind of business does he do? Sylvia shrugged. I don't know, she said honestly. I just know he's supposed to talk to those potential clients and get contracts signed. I see. What company does he work for? Sylvia paused again. She couldn't really answer that, considering his circumstances. She began to stammer. I can't really say. Hey Dracon, how's it going? I'm doing good. Can't complain. And you, how are you doing? Sylvia paused again. She couldn't really answer that, considering his circumstances. She began to stammer. I can't really say. Vanessa gave Sylvia a strange look, raising an eyebrow with a scrutinizing gaze. Okay, she eventually said before standing up. Where are you going? Sylvia blinked as the other teenage girl started to gather her plate and fork. Doing good yourself? Good, I'm glad to hear it. To throw my trash away, Vanessa explained, giving Sylvia an odd look. If you want, you can come with me, but I'll be right back. Oh, Sylvia, for the third time in just as many moments, felt lame. I think I'm gonna highlight this, because it's kind of... What was the first and second lame? There's lame. There's the first lame. Probably just use Control F to find it, but... There it is. She felt lame. There we go. How's the editing coming along? It's coming along. We're just still in the first markup phase. And then once that's done, we're going to go through and actually do the first pass of edits. Just a heads up for Twitch viewers, though, there is an ad coming in about 4 or 5 minutes. Alright, Oh, Sylvia, for the third time in just as many moments, felt lame. I can stay here, she said, leaning her back against the picnic table. I'll be right back, Vanessa smiled a bit, and then wandered over to a nearby trash can. Sylvia watched her go, the purple squirt swishing wildly as she walked. That doesn't be there. You must be Sylvia, a new voice spoke up from behind her. Turning, Sylvia found a couple of people, a man who appeared to be in his middle ages? Don't worry, rephrase that. And a woman who seemed to be around the man's age, standing on the opposite side of the picnic table. That's me, she said, a slight question in her voice as she processed these two new people. They are both brunettes, like Vanessa. It wasn't a stretch to figure out who these two people should be. Then. Are you Vanessa's parents? The woman smiled and looked up at the man, who nodded. Yes, Dr. Franklin at your service. He commented and extended a hand for Sylvia to shake. Franklin, that's their name. Alright. Vanessa Franklin. Alright. Mr. Franklin. Age, who knows? Vanessa's dad. General practice doctor. Lots of family in the setting. Mrs. Franklin, age, who knows? Vanessa's mom, stay-at-home mom. We don't know much about her yet. Where were we? Turning, Sylvia found a couple of people. A man who appeared to be in his middle ages, and a woman who seemed to be around the man's age, standing on the opposite side of the picnic table. That's me, she said, a slight question in her voice as she processed these two new people. They are both brunettes, like Vanessa. It wasn't a stretch to figure out who these two new people should be then. Are you Vanessa's parents? The woman smiled and looked up at the man, who nodded. Yes, Dr. Franklin at your service, he commented and extended a hand for Sylvia to shake. She reached across the table and took his hand and shook it politely. Sylvia Mulligan, pleased to meet you. She responded kind before looking over at the woman. And you too, Mrs. Franklin, I presume? The woman nodded, the smile still on her face. Yes, that is me. It's a pleasure to meet you both, she said, and moved her shaking hand from the doctor to the wife. Likewise, Mrs. Franklin stated, and then turned her gaze toward the teenager in the purple gown, making her way back to them. Oh, I just realized I need to... Anyway, that's fine. I'm glad Vanessa's been able to find a good friend in you, she said, a tinge of relief in her voice. Sylvia almost corrected the woman, wanting to let her know that they weren't friends, but stopped. There was no point. Even if Sylvia and Vanessa weren't really friends. That didn't stop this woman from feeling the relief she obviously heard in her tone. Sylvia nodded silently. She wasn't sure exactly what to say, so she just let the smile and nod be her answer. What are you guys talking about? Vanessa asked as she reached the trio of them at the picnic table. We were sharing embarrassing stories about you to your friend here, Mrs. Franklin said teasingly. Mom, Vanessa complained, shaking her head. You've got to do better than that. That elicited a laugh from her mother, who just replied with, I'll work on it. Your parents were introducing themselves to me, Sylvia explained. They were? Vanessa seemed surprised. Then she relaxed her expression and smiled. Well, that was nice of them. She then returned her attention toward her parents. What's going on anyway? It's time for us to head home, sweetie, her father explained. If you want, we can drive your friend home too, he offered. All eyes turned toward Sylvia. She really didn't want to answer. She wanted to be able to say something like Her parents were waiting for her in their car, but she had been at this party for well over an hour at this point, and doubted that they would still be there and waiting for her. They hadn't said anything about plans on how she would get home after the park. 1 second. She pulled out her cell phone to see if there were any messages that were sent after they had split up. There were none. Briefly, she contemplated walking home. That would be an endeavor, though. The park was at least 10 minutes away by car, so walking home would probably take an hour, or longer. Accepting a ride from Vanessa's family didn't seem that bad in comparison. Steeling herself to answer him, Sylvia ended up nodding. Yes. I think a ride home would be very helpful. Thank you. Alright. Now we're going back to January. Sylvia. Let me scan ahead. So this has got to be, yeah, this will be like January 20th, 25th. Alright. Sylvia, January 25th. Sylvia, her mother called from the living room. I've got some mail for you. In a minute, Sylvia called, her eyes currently focused on the splotches of paint on the palette in her hand. She was trying to make just the right shade, but everything she was adding was making it either too dark, too light, or too much of a certain color. She wanted a perfectly portioned purple, but was having difficulty achieving it. She felt like she was on the cusp of perfection, though, and really did not want to be interrupted before she achieved that feat. I think it's important. With a heavy sigh, Sylvia closed her eyes and allowed herself to have her focus interrupted. If her mother was yelling constantly like that, she at least... She at least thought it was important. Placing the palette down... Excuse me. Placing the palette down, Sylvia grabbed a cloth to wipe off her hands from any paint that might have smeared onto it, and left her room to see what her mother had in the mail for her. What is it? Sylvia asked, looking over a large white envelope that her mother was waving in the air. Come and see, her mother said, a grin on her face as she presented the envelope toward her daughter. Curious, Sylvia walked closer to her mother and the envelope, and peered at the name printed in ornate ink on the exterior. Academy of the Arts. Sylvia's jaw went slack. She had honestly given up hope that they would be writing to her. A loud swallow came from her throat as she tentatively... Yeah, that's weird. As she tentatively reached out to take the envelope from her mother's hand. She felt like her entire body was trembling with anticipation, but somehow she managed to stay upright without any problems. Do you want me to get your dad out here too? She offered. Sylvia stared at the letter in her hands. She heard her mother make the offer, but she wasn't sure if she had enough power to tear her eyes away from the yet unopened letter. We're just going to change that to envelope real quick. Finally, she just nodded without any actual response. Her mother let out a soft chuckle and patted Sylvia on her shoulder. I'll go get him. Hold off on opening that until we're out here? I will, Sylvia heard herself saying. Was she even in her own body anymore? This feeling felt very surreal. She could feel the fabric of the envelope as she was handling it, and see the envelope in those hands. Still, it felt like everything she was experiencing was from an outside perspective. she didn't register that she was the one actually feeling that paper or reading those external words again and again. "We're here," her mother chimed as she dragged her father into the living room with her from their bedroom. "Go ahead, open it," her father stated. With a loud gulp, Sylvia proceeded to peel the lip of the envelope back and pull out a single trifolded letter. Hold on. It's a trifolded letter. But I mentioned earlier that it was a large envelope. Excuse me. Yeah. Dear Sylvia Mulligan. Oh, no, let me start over. With a loud gulp, Sylvia proceeded to peel the lip of the envelope back and pull out a singular, trifolded letter. She read it silently to herself. Dear Sylvia Mulligan, thank you for your interest in applying to the Academy of the Arts. I'm going to actually highlight this for formatting because I want this to be on the same page. Maybe after some editing later it'll work, but... Oh, this is going to be tough to read. Let me undo that and I'll just redo it in a second. As you know, the Academy of the Arts is an institution designed for academic artists of all walks of life to come together to learn about, celebrate, and improve upon art techniques. We pave the way for future artists to hone their skills and refine their artistic knowledge. We firmly believe that from knowledge granted to us in the past, we can work in the present to forge and create new artists in the future. We are proud to accept artists of all mediums, including clay, marble, oil, digital, and beyond. It is our greatest pride that we take budding talent and mold it into the future of artistry. Your art has not reached the level that we feel would be indicative of a scholar of the arts, and therefore cannot be molded into an element that can be utilized to revolutionize the art world. Please do not give up on your artistry. There are needs for different artists in this world. Your art, however, is not of the caliber to bring to the Academy of the Arts. We sincerely hope you find the best of luck in your artistic endeavors. Signed, Rodolfo U.M. Prestor III. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and pink. Sylvia? She could hear her mother call to her. Was she even in her body anymore? She felt like she was not registering hardly anything. Well, that kind of feels weird to say. Her entire body felt numb, though she was certain that at this point her entire body was shaking. No, oh, here we go, we got redundancy again. Though she was certain at this point that her entire body was shaking. No, convulsing would be a more accurate description, from the way the paper suddenly became very difficult to read thanks to how it was bouncing around in her hand. Let me see that. She heard her father declare as he stepped closer to her, put a hand on her shoulder, and gently guided the paper out and away from her fingers. Almost immediately upon his comfortable touch, Sylvia felt herself relax. It felt as if there were restraints on her that suddenly were let go. Before the young woman had a chance to regain her mental bearings, she was enveloped in a hug by her father and felt him kiss her on the crown of her head. "Forget them," he muttered. Once those words were uttered, she heard her mother gasp, "Oh no," from her spot a few feet away. That was it. Thank goodness her father was already wrapping her in his arms, because she felt her knees give away, and all the tension in her body left her slack. That's weird too. We're going to come here. There we go. Oh, he called out, shifting his weight to fully support his daughter as she collapsed in his arms. "Sylv?" he asked, concerned. "I'm a failure," she bemoaned, eyes beginning to well in tears. "If I had just submitted when I should have." They still would have given that reply. Her mother stepped up and began rubbing her back. "They don't know talent, even if it slaps them in the face." She could hear her mother mutter under her breath. Something should slap them in the face. Sylvia closed her eyes hard. The tears weren't yet enough to spill out on their own, but once Sylvia squeezed her eyes shut, they started spilling down her face. Okay. Work that. She couldn't help but sniffle. She knew why they rejected her. There was a very high probability that it had nothing to do with her actual selected pieces, that her art style just wasn't right for the school. Still, she had that lingering feeling that if she had laid out the paintings in the appropriate spot for her mother, or had not procrastinated and taken care of it as early as this past summer when the request initially came through, then the chance that she would have gotten in would have been at least slightly increased. Still, she acknowledged to herself that there was no way of knowing. Those top 5 paintings were hard to select, and she was originally going to submit 5 random paintings. The result was very likely going to be the same either way. The thought crossed her mind about telling her mom that the wrong batch had been submitted, but after reasoning it out, it didn't make sense to let her know. Not right now. We might actually leave that. The last couple of months had been hard for everyone in the family, and she didn't want her mother to feel like she had any guilt in this. No, the fault lay with Sylvia, and Sylvia alone. If I had just done things differently... Ooh, excuse me, she bemoaned, crying into her father's shoulder, getting it very wet with her tears. We all feel that way sometimes, her mother kept rubbing her back, trying to reassure her. Her father nodded his head against hers, agreeing with his wife. He didn't say anything, he just kept his arms around Sylvia and supported her as she broke down. Alright. Scanning to make sure... Alright. We're back on Sylvia. Oh, we'll go February 1st. Adjusting myself into the seat. Give me one sec. How do I look? Sylvia's mother stepped out into the living room wearing black slacks and a coral blouse. She had gold jewelry to accent her look. We're going to need details, like what color is her mom's hair? Did I discuss that earlier? I don't remember, but we're going to figure that out. Her hair was mostly down, but had clips to keep her blonde locks out of her face. Oop. Never mind. Read ahead. Let's just actually mark that for restructuring. Excuse me. Sylvia looked up from her bowl of cereal that she was eating at this small dining table, assessed her mother, and gave her a thumbs up. Her mom gave her a soft smile in return. Thanks, she said. I'm so nervous, she admitted. You're going to do great, love, Sylvia's father said as he stood from his spot on the couch. I get that mechanically, but it reads weird to me. Sylvia's father said as he stood up from his spot on the couch, crossed the room to meet his wife, wrapped her in his arms, and gave her a sweet kiss. Sylvia winced and looked away. Yes, it was sweet that her parents still had this kind of romance several years into their marriage. Still, it wasn't anything that she wanted to see on any sort of regular or semi-regular basis. When do you have to go? Sylvia asked, her eyes still looking away from her parents' display of affection. From the corner of her eye, Sylvia could see her mother glance at her wristwatch. I have to... It'll give me a couple moments. got a text that I needed to look at. Okay. Where was I? When do you have to go? Sylvia asked, her eyes still looking away from her parents' display of affection. From the corner of her eye, Sylvia could see her mother glance at her wristwatch. I have to be there at 8, so I should probably leave in the next 15 minutes. Sylvia nodded. Her mom typically drove her to school. We're gonna have to mesh that with the bus thing. Mom typically drove her to school, but since she was starting her new job as an assistant at the doctor's office today, she would need to leave at the same time she normally would leave with Oh, this reads hard. And would need to leave at the same time she normally would leave with Sylvia to drop her off at the high school. There were conflicting times, and as a result, she would no longer be able to drop Sylvia off. We're gonna do that. Oh, you know, I just had a thought. Anyway. No, I'm gonna have to reconcile that somehow. Because if Sylvia's mom is a stay-at-home mom too, Sylvia doesn't drive, there's no reason for her to take the bus. We'll worry about that. Maybe we'll just make it so that Sylvia's mom has already been working as this office assistant. But that's future thoughts. Her dad was going to take over that task for her. Her dad was going to take over that task for the time being. Sylvia knew that this also meant that she would need to get her own driver's license at some point soon too. Oh, that's a loose end that we didn't tie up. Okay. The fact that she never received it hadn't bothered her until very recently. She was always able to rely on someone to drive her somewhere. In truth, she just assumed it would stay that way for as far into the future as she could imagine. Even when she saw herself going to college, she was certain that she would just rely on buses and ride shares. Now, the reality is changing. She was going to have to change her expectations along with it. Of course, the first gut punch she received was when she looked into getting a license. It required her to pass a test and have at least 1 year of supervised driving, which also required its own test before she could get that permit. She wouldn't be driving for at least a year. Are you going to take Sylvia to school? Her mother asked her father as she started pacing around the house, straightening up and gathering items together in nervous gestures before she departed. There's a phrase for it. I just need to figure out what that phrase is. Is there something difficult about the drop-off that I should know about? Sylvia's father asked, looking between his wife and daughter. I just realized that her father's not in the... Oh, there he is. That you know about? Sylvia's father asked, looking between his wife and daughter. No, her mother answered, frustration tinging her voice. We're going to mark you for rephrasing. Not sure what I want to do yet, but marking you for rephrasing. No, You're just worried and want to make sure that this morning goes smoothly for everyone, he cut in. Again, he crossed the room to join her and embraced her in a hug that Sylvia was sure was supposed to be like a reassuring hug of comfort. Sylvia could see her mother stop, anxiously fidgeting while in his arms. Now we're going to just highlight that too. It's just a drop-off. Everything will be okay. And if something happens, like a flat tire, then we've got things covered just in case. I know, but Sylvia, from her spot at the dining table, could see her mother's face scrunch as she tried to think of what Sylvia assumed were excuses for things to worry about. Nobody does that. Who does that? I totally do that. If you go to work today with your mind on the house, you're not going to be productive at work, he explained, stepping away from her and giving her a much-needed pep talk. You need to focus on what you need to do, and allow us to focus on what we need to do. It's been so long since, she started, and shook her head. No, you're right, I know. It'll be tough, but I'll try to power through it. Hopefully the other girls will be understanding, she said, referring to the other nurses and assistants that she would be working with at the practice. Of course I'm right, Sylvia's father said with a grin. I'm usually right. Her mother scoffed and shook her head, stepping away from him, as she turned and peered into a mirror. She scrutinized her reflection, and then frowned. Is my makeup okay? Mom, you look fine. Makeup and everything, Sylvia assured her from where she was sitting. You're going to be fine. Heck, you could leave now if you wanted to with how you're dressed and all that. Her mother gave her an appreciative look, then shook her head. No, I couldn't do that. Not right now, anyway. Why? Sylvia asked. I still have to make my lunch. You can't eat takeout there? Sylvia asked. Her father never made his own lunch since he was always eating it while he was at work, even when he wasn't traveling. No, her mother answered, then paused. Well, I guess maybe I could, but I don't know what options there are to eat around the office. Plus, we're still trying to save money, remember? Dining out, even for lunch for one person, is still off the table. Sylvia nodded, frowning in thought. Should I start bringing my lunch to school? What? No, her mother answered with a shake of her head. We paid into your lunch program through the end of the year already. That's not anything we can undo. Keep enjoying, or whatever it is you do, your school lunches. That might be just removed. Are you sure? I can bring my own sandwiches and they'll be just as nutritious, I'm sure, Sylvia explained. I'm sure they won't be, as long as you eat all of your school lunch, her mother countered. No exceptions, you're not bringing your lunch. Fine, Sylvia huffed and started to drink the milk out of her cereal bowl. What do you want for lunch? Sylvia's father asked as he made his way to the kitchen. I'll get it started for you. Thank you. Mother followed him into the kitchen. Where Sylvia was sitting, she couldn't see her parents anymore. That's one word. But she could hear them chattering away about the potential meals to bring, bags to bring it in, and whether or not her mom had anything to eat or drink yet. As their chatter filled the air in the house, Sylvia looked down at her now empty cereal bowl. Things were changing, and she wasn't sure if she would be able to change along with them. She knew that she would have to. That's the way the world worked. But she also knew that she was not great at handling changes like this. She knew that she would be slow to adopt any change needed, and it would cost her in some fashion, much like the decision around her paintings had cost her the enrollment to her school of choice. She sniffed without realizing it. She knew the next few months would go by quickly. Graduation was just around the corner. So many other students already had colleges and future career plans already lined out for them. Like that for the redundancy. Sylvia, on the other hand, didn't know what she would be doing. Will she work at a pizza place like she initially imagined a few months ago? Couple, if we're going to be in February. Will she try to apply at another school? Or will she try to make it herself in the art world? The last thought made her shudder. She knew that required an amount of commitment she felt like she didn't have. She needed to make a decision on how to move forward. She could probably try to do all three, but she also knew that but she also knew that required a lot more commitment than she was capable of. The future terrified her. Right? Sylvia... I know when I started doing the edits, I was doing, adding Vanessa to chapters. I'm just gonna hold off on that until the rearranging happens. And then it'll just be snuck in, probably during the second or third phase of editing. Sylvia, February 1st, continued. Later that day, Vanessa and Sylvia were sitting at a table in the cafeteria, poking at the food that was presented to them on their trays. Your mom really thinks that school food is more nutritious than a sandwich? Vanessa asked in disbelief as she stabbed a mushy pea with her plastic fork. She does, Sylvia acknowledged with a nod. Why? I don't know. Probably because she thinks there's nutritional value to everything on here. I didn't ask her too much about it, though. Weird, but okay. I guess without scrutinizing the labels of the food, we won't really be able to know, and we'll just have to guess. Vanessa sighed. Sylvia knew that there was some information on the internet somewhere about the nutritional value of each of the items the school prepared. She also knew that although she had once found it as part of a class assignment, she never looked at it again. She also couldn't recall what the assignment was about, or if she had actually gathered any data on the school lunch's nutritional value. She just remembered seeing it. Once. Not all the food's bad, Sylvia conceded, picking up a chicken sandwich. It was a thin piece of chicken on a shiny roll that had a couple of pickles slipped into the bun. Sylvia, Vanessa said with a flat tone, that's honestly the worst chicken sandwich I've ever had the pleasure of eating. Wait, no pleasure. That's just honestly the worst chicken sandwich I've ever eaten, she pointed out and corrected herself. The blonde teenager just shrugged. It's not bad, though. It's just missing a few elements to actually make it good. The meat's actually kind of tender, and the bun's not too dry. All in all, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Vanessa shook her head and picked up her own sandwich, silently eating it. In the couple of months since the first of the year... I mean, it's technically only been a month. Alright, fine. We'll just bump this to the 10th. Just want to highlight this just as a case of continuation. In a couple of months since the first of the year... Just double checking. I made the light yellow consistency. Yep, I did good. Good on me. Good on me. In the couple of months since the first of the year, Vanessa and Sylvia had been slowly hanging out more and more. Actually, I might just say it. Anyway. Actually, that all needs to be done because, yep. The two just started having small talk in the hallway, and then one day discovered they had the same lunch period together, so they started sitting with each other and talking during the lunch breaks. Vanessa wasn't allowed to have social media, so Sylvia didn't add her to anything except for her phone contacts. They were close enough at this point that Sylvia now considered Vanessa a friend, and did not have to pause to consider that title. I might want to expand that into maybe a chapter or a detailed thing. Oh yeah, before I forget again, I've got something for you, Sylvia said once she was done with the chicken sandwich. You do? Vanessa asked, as in surprise. Yeah, I'm just gonna highlight you. I don't know where I came up with that particular phrasing, but it was most likely word bloat to work on the novel challenge. Yeah, Sylvia confirmed. It's in my locker, though. I didn't want it to be smashed in my backpack. Do you want it after lunch? How about, yeesh, my typing is awful. Must have been at the end of the day. How about after school? That way we won't have to let it sit in my locker until the end of the day. And, she added with a mischievous glint in her eye, This can help us up the ante when it comes to excitement. Huh? Sylvia asked, unsure what her friend meant by that. Vanessa's face deflated with Sylvia's confusion. I was just saying, she tried to explain, that the more I wait, the more excited I'll get for the gift. Kind of like Christmas time, you know? You'll see the gift under the tree, and then you can't wait to open it, and then you get the satisfaction of finally opening it on Christmas. She's talking about anticipation. I think I was trying to find the word for it when I was, I'm gonna just add this real quick. Sylvia blinked. She wasn't sure if that example worked, simply because she didn't think her excitement for gifts changed regardless of when the gift was added to the tree pile. For her, it was always just the countdown of the morning of. Maybe this could be in... Anyway, yeah, timelines you need to figure out. Sort of. Maybe this conversation happened earlier in the year. No, that doesn't make sense either. Alright. Where was I? For her, it was always just the countdown until the morning of. Still, Vanessa's explanation allowed her to realize that she's talking about her feelings of suspense for receiving the gift. So let's undo that. I'm just going to change suspense to anticipation. You know, I don't think that example works with me, Sylvia pointed out. I do get what you mean, though. I can give it to you after school. Do you want to meet by love? Do you want to meet by my locker? Sure, Vanessa agreed before taking another bite out of her sandwich. The two of them sat silently across from each other, finishing their school-provided lunch. Why did you never learn how to drive? Or, why did you never learn to drive? Sylvia asked from out of nowhere. What? Vanessa asked, apparently caught off guard by the question. I was thinking about it this morning, Sylvia stated. You're thinking about why I don't drive this morning? And Vanessa cut her off to ask, confusion all over her face and voice. No. Sylvia shook her head. Let me finish. I was thinking about why I don't drive this morning, she clarified. And I was curious about your reasons. Oh, Vanessa blinked, then shrugged. I mean, I guess if I wanted to, I could. My dad just never encouraged it, though. He says there's too many crazy people on the road, and if I got my license, I'd either add to those crazy people, or be a victim of them. I'm gonna highlight this. Not gonna be an immediate response. I want her to kind of draw out that response a little bit. Sylvia frowned. She felt like she understood what Dr. Franklin's reasoning could have been, but it still felt odd to her that that reasoning like that would persuade him from keeping his daughter from having a license. Yellow. I think I'm going to start working on mine this summer, Sylvia declared. We can do it together, so you can have someone to go through it with you, she suggested. Maybe. Vanessa answered, her eyes looking down in thought. Sylvia wasn't sure if the invitation was really accepted or if her friend was just being polite. She decided not to press the matter further, though. At least the chocolate milk is good, she said, changing the subject. Alright, I will be back, guys. Alright, we're jumping to the next thingy. Sylvia. Maybe stuff like this I can switch the POVs to. Alright. Like this last chapter here. Be done from Vanessa's POV. You know what? Instead of continued, lunchtime. After school. That's still a work in progress. But anyway, oh, where was I? Later that same day, Sylvia was standing by her locker. Hold on, just double checking. I feel like I'm not hearing myself. No, there it goes. Okay. Later that same day, Sylvia was standing by her locker with her back pressed against it as she looked around across the sea of faces as they passed her by. Ho, ho, ho. No one was paying any particular attention to her, unless they needed to move in the crowd in an effort to avoid running into her. Yeah. Most people didn't come too close to lockers when they moved with the crowd, but sometimes people would find themselves on the outskirts and have to find their way back in. It wasn't too bad at the end of the day, though. After the initial burst of student movement toward their lockers or exits, the crowds in the hallways thinned out relatively quickly, and navigation became more manageable. Finally, Sylvia saw the head that she was looking for. A brunette teenager who was well developed. Was casually making her way down the hall in her direction. They caught each other's gaze and both waved excuse me in greeting and acknowledgement. When Vanessa reached Sylvia at her locker, she stepped out of the thinning crowd and leaned her shoulder against the metal doors of the locker system. "Hey," she said in greeting. "Hey," Sylvia replied the greeting. Probably return the greeting, but we'll just mark it for revision later. She replied the greeting before turning toward her locker and beginning to undo the combination. "So you've got a gift for me, huh?" Vanessa asked, looking over Sylvia's arm to try and see if she could spot the gift. "I do," Sylvia acknowledged with a grin. She looked over at her curious friend and laughed. "The suspense worked, huh?" "I know I'm about to get something," Vanessa explained, "so of course I'm naturally eager to get it." Sylvia laughed at her friend's eagerness and reached into the locker. On top of the row of books, there was a rectangular item that she reached for and pulled out. "This," she said with pomp and circumstance, "is for you." She turned and presented Vanessa a taut canvas with a colorful scene on it. The majority of the canvas's background was green, but it was speckled with dots and slashes of different colors: brown, beige, blue, pink, purple, white, and more. Many of the dots were put together in a way that resembled people. Though many of them were wearing pants and shirts, a lot also seemed to have long hair and were wearing dresses. One in particular had red fluffy hair and wore a pink dress as they were perched on a picnic table. "Is this Maggie's birthday party?" Vanessa asked, looking over the painting. "It is," Sylvia replied proudly. She knew her art style wasn't always appreciated, but one thing she was always proud of was the fact that whomever was looking at her work would be able to easily identify it, as long as they were familiar with it. Sorry. If she painted a scene from a book, no one who never read the book would be able to recognize what it was. Vanessa stood with the painting in her hands for several minutes, looking over all of the details. There were the people and the picnic tables, of course. There was one that was loaded with various boxes that had tiny dots and other symbols on them. The gift table. There were a few others that showed bowls and boxes, indicative of the food set out by the family had created. There was even a table that had a round white and purple cake on it. Sylvia allowed Vanessa to take as much time as she wanted to look over the painting. She could see her eyes dart from one portion of the canvas to another, taking in the details that she had created for her. She was waiting to see if Vanessa could find one key element that, while not hidden in the painting, was not obvious to find either. "There we are," Vanessa finally said, squinting her eyes. "You painted us at the walkway in the distance," she commented, looking from the painting to her friend. "Is this the moment I invited you to the party?" Sylvia shrugged. "Close to it, I guess. I mean, my parents aren't there, but that day was kind of important." "Oh?" Vanessa asked. She wasn't going to try to fill in what Sylvia was about to say. Instead, she was waiting to see what she would say. That can be parsed. "Yeah," she shrugged again, beginning to prepare her backpack for the night's homework. "What do you mean it was kind of important?" Vanessa finally probed. "Oh," Sylvia stammered, looking over her friend's direction. "Well, to be honest, if we hadn't run into each other that day, we probably wouldn't be as good friends as we are now," she said honestly. Without saying as much, she thought to herself that she would probably still be trying to avoid the brunette in the halls. Without that, she decided to continue, we'd probably still just be classmates and acquaintances. Vanessa didn't reply immediately, her eyes going back to the painting in her hands. "You don't like it?" "No, I didn't say that," Vanessa shook her head. "I just don't know what to say. I guess I'll start with, thank you." She looked back up at Sylvia, a genuine smile on her face. Sylvia found herself wondering, did this girl ever fake a smile? Or was she so good at it that even forced smiles looked genuine? It didn't matter, as long as she believed it was real. "I'm glad that you enjoy it," she answered, smiling in return. Vanessa stammered, looking down at the painting again. "I think I want to keep it in my locker. Would you be upset if I don't bring it home?" Sylvia blinked and shook her head. "No, I wouldn't be upset." She was happy her friend liked it, and liked it enough to see it in her locker almost every day. She was, however, confused about why Vanessa seemed hesitant to bring the painting home right away. Maybe she had a lot of pictures on her walls as it was, and she didn't want to change anything up. "Great," Vanessa smiled. "Want to come with me to my locker to get this set up?" "Sure. 1 second, I'm almost done here," Sylvia said as she finally finished zipping up her backpack. After she set the lock back on her locker, she turned to her friend. "After you." By this point, the hallway crowds had subsided, and the two girls were able to walk toward the back of the school where Vanessa's locker was located without getting separated in any crowds. Ugh. We're going to revisit that. "What made you want to paint this for me?" Vanessa asked after looking over the painting for what felt like the 100th time. Sylvia shrugged. "I just wanted to do something nice for you," she explained. "I'm really bad at almost everything. Painting is the one thing I can do relatively well." She bit back the sting. Let me start over. That one's on me. She bit back the sting of the internal voice that pointed out that she wasn't good enough for the Academy of the Arts. "It's what I like to do," she said, almost responding more to the voice in her head than explaining her painting to Vanessa. "So there was no reason?" Vanessa asked, sounding genuinely confused. "Does there have to be?" Sylvia asked, confused as well. Vanessa paused to contemplate that question, and then shook her head. "No, I don't suppose there needs to be," she said. "I'm just used to gifts being given I'm just used to gifts being given for a holiday or a birthday or something." "Oh, no holiday or anything for the gift. I just wanted to give you something for being my friend, and I knew painting was the best I could do." "When is your birthday?" Sylvia asked after responding to Vanessa's gift reason concern. Vanessa answered in a meek voice, so low that Sylvia had to stop and turn to face her friend. I'm sorry, what did you say? It was really low. I wanna point out that redundancy. January 19th, she said again, more audibly this time. Wait, Sylvia said, stepping back to process the information. Your birthday was last month? It's already come and gone? And you didn't tell me? I don't really celebrate my birthday, Vanessa explained, starting again toward her locker. You don't? Sylvia quickly caught up to walk beside her friend. No. What about your family? Those big get-togethers? Vanessa stopped again and let out a large sigh. Yes, we do have one of those. It was held at my grandmother's house. I'm gonna add this year. She paused. But they really celebrated it more than I did. I didn't have any fun. Sylvia paused and then gestured to the painting in Vanessa's hands. If you want, this can be a late gift. Vanessa chuckled and shook her head. No, but thank you. When I was asking why you made this, one of the things I thought was that someone had told you about missing my birthday, and that's why you gave it to me, she explained. So I want to keep this explanation in here, but I just want to revamp. I don't like celebrating my birthday, Sylvia. It's another excuse to get together with family, sure, but I don't need everyone making any sort of fuss about the fact that I got to live another year. Sylvia stopped talking for a moment and nodded. Yeah, I get it, she said, though she really didn't. What did Vanessa mean by got to live another year? She wasn't about to ask, though, and decided to just presume the easiest definition. Vanessa had one more year on the earth to celebrate her birthday, and she preferred to celebrate victories, not life lengths. Vanessa raised an eyebrow to the blonde. Do you really get it? Sylvia kept her mouth shut for a moment as she assessed her friend. Vanessa was generally bubbly and liked to keep things upbeat and light in their discussions. Of the two of them, she was generally the more active one. Seeing how she was now, somber and serious, she knew that Vanessa was not trying to lie to her. Sylvia should not do the same to her friend. It feels like there's something I don't know. Maybe you don't want to tell me because... I don't know, you just don't. But that's fine. You don't know all my stuff either, and that's fine too, Sylvia shrugged. I just know that it seems to bother you. That part I get and understand. I'll forget about your birthday from now on, she promised. Vanessa smiled. Thanks. Though, maybe if you do remember, you can wish me a happy birthday. I'll try to keep that in mind, Sylvia promised with a wink. Oh, is this the same scene or new scene? Looks like new scene. Okay. Alright, where are we? Alright, we got about 15 minutes. We're gonna drag that up. Ooh. Alright, we'll do Sylvia. Feb 10th. After school. Continued. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of these that are the same day. Might just be condensed. I like having them separate for now. At the car loop, many of the underclassmen had already been picked up, and there was a white SUV waiting at the front of the line. So I guess that's Vanessa's mom's car. There's my mom, Vanessa pointed out the SUV, and the woman who had been sitting in the driver's seat was waving frantically at Vanessa to get in the car. That seems like a hook for the next chapter. Alright, Sylvia said, adjusting her backpack. I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Vanessa repeated, waving back at Sylvia, and then made her way to the passenger side door of the car. Although Sylvia was not in the immediate area, she could hear Vanessa ask, rather loudly. Vanessa's mother asked, rather loudly, what were you two doing before the door closed again? Sylvia stood in place for a moment, watching the silhouettes of Vanessa and Mrs. Franklin chatting with each other through the tinted windows of the vehicle. The way that Mrs. Franklin asked that question was weird. It was almost accusatory, but it didn't really feel like she was upset. Even the way their shadows moved before the SUV started pulling away seemed more like a conversation than a mom berating her daughter. Speaking of moms and daughters, Sylvia scanned the cars left in the line for her parents' vehicle. She didn't see it anywhere in the line and frowned. Did her dad forget about her pickup time? He was normally so good about this stuff, but I guess the change in the daily routine made things difficult to remember. She looked around, and most of the people who were left were a couple of kids who were sitting and talking to each other, and a few teachers who looked extremely bored and absolutely could have made better use of their time elsewhere. Sylvia knew her cell phone was in the side pouch of her backpack, but the new rules that were put into place earlier this year were tested by so many students, and she knew that even after her classes let out, the rule was in place. The only exception was faculty events like dances, games, or performances. The car loop was not an exception, and would result in her phone being taken away if she had tried to use it. She looked around again, and then walked up to the teacher. She was familiar with this teacher, as she had her in 10th grade. Miss Ember? She called to the teacher on car loop duty that day. Alright, just a heads up for my Twitch viewers, there is an ad starting in about 4 or 5 minutes. What can I do for you? The rotund literature professor turned her attention to the blonde student standing off to her side. I'm going to come up here. Ms. Ember, 10th grade lit teacher. Rotund. She called to the teacher on car loop duty that day. We are going to highlight it for revamp. What can I do for you? The rotund literature professor. I'm going to actually, put that under research. The rotund literature professor turned her attention to the blonde standing off to her side. I need to call my dad. Do you think the front office will be open right now? The teacher looked at her watch and nodded. The office is open for an hour after the final bell, she explained. So you have time. Thanks. Sylvia watched thank the teacher. Redundancy. Thanks. Sylvia thanked the teacher and went into the front office. The front office was a small area that held a set of 3 waiting chairs and a fake palm front tree? What was I writing? Jeez. And a fake palm tree that sat opposite of a large counter that spanned wall to wall. The counter had a plexiglass barrier that ran from ceiling to nearly a foot between the top of the counter and the bottom of the barrier. Behind the counter and the barrier was a set of 3 desks, and a hallway that led to the dean and vice dean's personal offices. When Sylvia walked into the office, there was no one in the waiting area, nor was there anyone present at the counter or behind any of the desks. A jingling sound was heard, though, once she stepped fully in. "Be right there!" a voice chirped from a side room in the hallway. "Okay," Sylvia called back, though she kept her voice low. Something about this space made her feel like raising her voice would result in punishment of some sort. She had no proof, of course, that would happen, but it was still the vibe she got from this place. Probably because of how quiet it was in the room. Alright, that's mostly exposition. We don't need that there. A few moments later, a petite woman with curly strawberry blonde hair bounced out of the side room. "Hello," she said, eyeing the young woman on the other side of the counter. "How can I help?" "I need to call my dad," Sylvia said. "I think he forgot to pick me up today." The secretary eyed Sylvia curiously. "Don't you normally ride the bus?" Sylvia chuckled nervously. "About that. Not anymore. Apparently I was a special pickup and my parents can't do that anymore." The secretary nodded her understanding and slid a corded phone under the transparent barrier. "Here you go." Sylvia thanked the secretary. She took the receiver off of the hook and then stared at the numbers in front of her. What was her dad's number again? She looked up from the old phone to the secretary, and then back down to the old phone. She started. "Forgot the number?" the secretary asked, good-naturedly. Sylvia nodded. "Can I pull up my cell phone and just call him?" The secretary shook her head. "Sorry, you can pull it out to look at his number, but you've got to put it away right afterward." "That's," Sylvia started, only to be cut off by the older woman. "Those are the rules," she explained, having heard the argument several times over. Highlight this. I try, for this story at least, I try not to give too much from the point of view of not the main character, so Sylvia doesn't know that she's heard the story several times over. She can probably guess, but she doesn't know. "Those are the rules," she explained, having heard the argument several times over. "I can allow you to pull out the phone to look at something, but I cannot allow you to actively use it." Sighing because the school's rules felt more archaic than helpful, Sylvia nodded. Fine. She pulled out her phone, unlocked it, scrolled to her father's information to read and remember her father's cell phone number. Ugh. And then turned the screen off and put the device back into its pouch in her backpack. This time, she picked up the receiver off the phone and began to dial her father's phone number. It rang a few times before he answered. "Hello?" His uncertain voice came from the other end of the phone. "Dad, where are you?" "Sylvia?" His voice came through, still confused. "Yeah," she replied. "Where are you?" she asked again. A yawn came from his side of the phone, followed by a sharp gasp of realization. "Sorry," he apologized. "I took a nap and I guess I lost track of time." Sylvia frowned. How could he lose track of time? Immediately she felt regret for that thought. She was always losing track of time, so why couldn't he? "It's okay," she forgave him verbally. "I'll be there as soon as I can be," he promised. "See you soon," she replied. They both hung up the phone and she slid it back to the secretary. "Sounds like someone lost track of time?" the secretary asked. It felt like she was making some poor attempt at small talk, but Sylvia was willing to indulge her. She had some time after all. "Yeah," Sylvia answered. "Shopping or sleep?" "Sleep." Sylvia didn't want to elaborate more than that, though she didn't really feel like the secretary was going to ask for more anyway. "Any estimate on how long he'll take?" the woman asked. Sylvia sighed and tried to figure out how long it would take her dad to get from the house to the school. That would take 20 to 30 minutes for the trip, depending on traffic. He might need to get changed or take a shower first, too. That should add another 5 or 10 minutes. She did already sort of account for traffic delays in the commute to school, but an extra 5 minutes would give some more buffer. "He shouldn't be more than 45 minutes, she said. The secretary's eyes nearly jumped out of her skull. I looked away and I lost their... Oh, excuse me. We're closing in about 10 minutes. The gates will be closed 30 minutes after that. Do you want to call your father again and have him meet you somewhere off the school property? she suggested. There's Adele's down the road. You can have some fries or something while you wait for him. Sylvia frowned again. She had forgotten that the school closes the way it does in an effort to protect the students and staff who work after hours when there was no resource officer. That might be a good idea, she said, and the secretary slid the corded phone back over to her. She picked up the receiver once again and dialed the number she had just dialed a few moments ago. This time, it barely rang once before he answered. Hello? He sounded confused as he answered this time. Wasn't he confused originally? Hold on, let's roll up. Yep. Dad, it's me, Sylvia said, more rushed. Excuse me. Dad, it's me, Sylvia said, more rushed than she was a few moments ago. Can you pick me up at Adele's? It's the little diner on the corner. Yeah, I can do that, he answered, still sounding confused. Why? The school gates are probably going to close before you get here, she explained. Uncertainty was in his voice, although he answered. Oh, that's weird. Okay, sure. I'll pick you up from Adele's today. Thanks. I'll see you soon. See you soon, Sylv. Excuse me. Alright, we've got a few minutes left. Let's just go ahead and set the next chapter up. Sylvia, Feb 10, Adele's. Alrighty. We're not even halfway through the story yet, guys. Alright. So the plan is tomorrow we'll come back with some more editing. Basically, we're just going to every stream from now on until we're done with the first pass. It's going to be an editing stream. We might, like when we get done with the markup version, we might do a relaxed stream. But sorry. My brain pistons are having issues. But yeah, we're going to keep editing, doing the markup editing, and then we're going to, once we're done with the story with the markup editing, we're going to go ahead and pause for like a day, take a day to game or something. And then come back and we're going to actually follow the highlights and edit through that. And as we're going through this, I'm realizing there's a couple of plot points that weren't addressed by the end of the story. For example, Sylvia not getting her driver's license, or getting the driver's license. Excuse me. And just things like that. I'm also thinking of like ideas to some Vanessa into the story. Right now, it's not a lot. Most of it's going to focus on family and things like that, but I want to make sure that, you know, it's not like, unless it's just ends up being just all about Sylvia, and I cut out the Vanessa parts. I want to be able to have that dichotomy there. Alright, though. I am going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Tomorrow we will be streaming until 6. Don't know when I'm starting. Again, not the novel challenge month anymore, so we're going to go ahead and... There we go, that's better. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, sorry. but yeah, generally speaking, so not the November challenge anymore, so I'm just back to my usual morning routine, which includes taking time to learn stuff, exercising, which I did not do hardly at all last month, house chores, getting all that done without being on stream. So yeah, so basically once all of that is done, plus lunch, that's when I will start the stream, and that's usually not until like today it was almost 3. I think yesterday was similar. Sometimes it might be sooner. It just depends on what the workload looks like. Alright guys, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here now. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!